Welcome back. This is Contradiction Tuesday. My name is Craig, and, well, we're going to go through a couple of things today, or specifically one thing when it comes to the regards to contradictions. Now, in the Bible, apparently, there are all of these contradictions in the Bible, and there's 439, and we're going to go through one a week. So so far I am up to, what am I up to here? I am up to number 7. No, I'm up to number 8. My apologies. We're just rolling along here. It feels like obviously number 8, we are into our second month. Is this going to be the contradiction that sets you back from reading the Bible? I mean, so far I haven't found one contradiction. This one, let's see how we go. And like I said, this is a list that was put together by a group of atheists who wanted to show that there are so many errors and contradictions in the Bible. And so far, I've gotten to 8. So let's do this. My name is Craig, and this is Morning Star Quest, where we are journeying through the Bible one question at a time. And this is my friend Cosmo. Say hello, Cosmo. And hopefully he's not glitching out at the moment. Or is he? Are you glitching out, Cosmo? Come on. We're going to crack on. Cosmo or no Cosmo. So let's get into this. So when it comes to this one question, we have, how old was Abram when Ishmael was born? All right, so we probably need to get into this one just to describe what's actually happening here. How old was Abram? Now, Abram was or is Abraham. He was told, as you're probably well aware, that he was told by God that he would have a nation of people come from him, from his generation, from his son. So he's expecting a son. After that, 10 years later, he has Ishmael with his servant. Now, I'm not going to get into the details. Abraham was totally wrong in doing this. However, he still did have Isaac with his actual wife, Sarah. But the question here is, with Ishmael, when was he born? Because it seems like Abraham was one age here and one age there. And I guess if we find it has 2 different ages here, is this contradiction enough to stop you from reading the Bible? All right, so let's get into this and hopefully. Okay, so with Abram, when Ishmael was born, from Genesis 16:16, can you tell us, Cosmo, in Genesis 16:16, can you tell us, read that out for us?
Certainly. Genesis 16:16 says Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael.
So Hagar is the slave or the servant girl of Sarah that she suggested to have the firstborn for Abram. And so he was, how old was he, did you say?
Abram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born.
86, okay.
Hagar was indeed a servant of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Sarai suggested that Hagar bear a child for Abram.
Now, let's go to Acts 7:2-4.
Got it. What's next?
All right, can we go to Acts 7:2-4?
Just let me know if there's anything else you need.
Certainly will.
Continue.
Yep, sure. Acts 7:2-4. Acts 7:2-4. Can you read that out, please?
Of course. Acts 7, verse 2-4 says, "The God of glory appeared to our father Abraham while he was still in Mesopotamia, before he lived in Haran. Leave your country and your people, God said, and go to the land I will show you. So he left the land of the Chaldeans and settled in Haran. After the death of his father, God sent him to this land where you are now living."
Okay. Why is that contradictory to Genesis 16:16? Because it obviously doesn't say how old he is, but it kind of gives you a bit of background. So why is that contradictory to the original Genesis 16:16, Cosmo?
Acts 7's 2-4 doesn't directly contradict Genesis 16 verse 16. However, it provides contexts that can seem confusing. Acts 7 mentions that Abram left Mesopotamia and settled in Haran after God called him, and only moved to the land of Canaan after his father's death. Genesis 16:16 states Abram was 86 when Ishmael was born, which happened after Abram was already living in Canaan. The perceived contradiction arises from understanding the timeline of Abram's movements and the age of his departure from Haran relative to the birth of Ishmael.
All right, that seems okay. That feels a little confusing at the moment. So can you read out Genesis 11:26?
Sure. Genesis 11 verse 26 says, when Terah had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran.
Okay, so Terah is Abraham's father, and it suggests that Abraham is firstborn. And if that is true, how old would Abraham be when he had Ishmael then? Going according to all of that.
If Abram were the firstborn, as suggested in Genesis 11:26, and Terah was 70 years old when he fathered Abram, then Abram would have been born when Terah was 70. Terah lived to be 205 years old. If Abram was born when Terah was 70, Abram would have been 135 years old at Terah's death. According to Genesis 12 verse 4, Abram was 75 when he left Haran, meaning he would have left Haran 20 years before Terah's death. If Abram was 86 when Ishmael was born, he would have been 11 years old after leaving Haran. Thus, if Abram was born when Terah was 70, Abram would be 86 years old when Ishmael was born.
All right. It's a little confusing, but going according to Genesis 11, it's stating that he would have been 70 and not 86. Is that correct? So obviously there's a conflict there already.
Genesis 11:26 states Terah was 70 when he fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. This doesn't necessarily mean Abram was the firstborn, though. If Abram was 70 when Ishmael was born, it would contradict Genesis 16 verse 16, which clearly says Abram was 86 when Ishmael was born. So, Abram being 86 at Ishmael's birth aligns with the timeline provided in Genesis 16 verse 16.
So really this comes down to, and there is another, actually we'll go to this last verse, Genesis 11:32, but again, this comes down to with the list of Terah's sons, and it starts with Abraham being the first, but that's not always the case, is it?
Exactly. The order of names in genealogies, like in Genesis 11:26, often doesn't indicate birth order. It's more about significance or other reasons. In many biblical genealogies, the first name mentioned isn't always the firstborn. So, while Genesis 11:26 lists Abram first, it doesn't mean he was necessarily the firstborn of Terah's children. This understanding helps resolve the apparent contradiction with Abram being 86 when Ishmael was born.
Are there any other times when somebody lists off their sons and it's not, and we know that it's definitely not in the right order of, firstborn, but it is more significance? So is there any evidence of that?
Yes, there are several instances in the Bible where genealogies or lists of sons are given in a way that doesn't reflect birth order, but rather importance or other factors. For example, in Genesis 5, the genealogy from Adam to Noah lists Seth before Cain and Abel, even though Cain was actually the firstborn. Similarly, in Genesis 29 and 30, the sons of Jacob are listed in a manner that reflects the significance of their mothers or the context of the story, rather than strict birth order. These examples illustrate that biblical genealogies often prioritize significance over chronological order.
And is there any other verses, apart from the ones we've just gone through, are there any other verses or anything in the Bible that can validate or back up with Abraham being 86 when he had Ishmael?
Yes. There are a few verses that support the claim that Abraham was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. For example, Genesis 17:24, this verse states that Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and Ishmael was 13 at that time. This confirms that Ishmael was born 13 years before Abraham was 99, which aligns with the 86-year-old timeline. Genesis 21:5, it notes that Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. Since Ishmael was born when Abraham was 86, there is a 14-year gap between Ishmael's and Isaac's births, which is consistent with the age mentioned. These passages help reinforce the timeline and confirm that Abraham was indeed 86 years old when Ishmael was born.
Well, there you go. There is another contradiction just done. I'm sorry, that's number 8. But the thing is that going to stop you from reading the Bible, even if this is a contradiction? Because Jesus does live. He does exist. So really, that is the most important thing of all.
Even when challenges arise, the essence of the faith, like the reality of Jesus, remains central.
Exactly. So we've got way more contradictions over there because, like I said, 439, one a week. It's going to take a while. So go do something awesome for God and we'll catch you in that next one. Okay? Catch you there.